and welcome to the Scratticus Academy. It is Wednesday. I know the days of the week, and we are back with some Redwall, and I am so excited for this wholesomeness. So first of all, please check out all the links that are coming up in the chat now. Also, a huge thank you to our wonderful sponsors in the form of Bird and the Storm, and also MHM Press. You can find all of their bits and bobs there. Otherwise, I'm going to hand over to a very lovely recorder, Rachel. Oh, hi.
Oh, hi, everybody. Wow, that was a really quick intro. I was not ready. Resizing windows. Okay, we're good. Okay, welcome everyone to episode 2 of our Heroes of Redwall story. Yeah, it's kind of nice to quickly go around the table, introduce the players and who they will be playing tonight. So let's go anti-clockwise this time. We will be starting with Geek Girl Bookworm, the wonderful Lady Anastasia Tiddlywinkle.
Hello everyone, I'm Angelique, Geek Girl Bookworm, everywhere online. I will be playing Lady Anastasia Tiddlywinkle. She is a known only to herself noble hedgehog in a land where nobility does not exist. And is mortified to find herself stuck on a beach without all of her usual servants and bag handlers. But it's okay, because Holt's here, and he can carry all my bags for me. So, win for me.
Holt is so precious. Next up, our players this evening, we have D-Sword16 playing Asher the Badger.
Hi everyone, I am Derek Sword. You can find me on Twitter at D-Sword16. Yes, I will be playing Asher. He is a sturdy, big badger buddy who is hard on the outside but soft on the inside.
Fantastic. And our last player for tonight, but certainly not least, as unfortunately Heavenly can't make it tonight, is the wonderful Alice White Rabbit playing Holt, who I love so much.
Oh, hi, I'm Alice. I am playing Holt, who is basically your big brother otter friend. He's too big for his own good and forgets it quite a lot of the time, but he's kind of just happy to be here. He's been by the beach, he's got a full stomach, and he's pretty happy about it.
Fantastic. Well, without further ado, by the way, I am at Talonir on Twitter, and I am I am your recorder for this evening to tell this tale. I think it's probably time we begin. So, after the events of the previous day, as a quick recap, you found yourselves washed up on the white sand beach, south of Southwood, apparently, is what you were told. You spoke to a similarly marooned sea rat, who might have been one of your captors. He didn't divulge that much information to you, but did tell you that you better get moving if you didn't want to be hunted down. So, lacking many of your memories, you set off across the sand dunes, which slowly became moorland and kind of craggy valleys with a lot of coastal flora. And eventually you came across, just as your stomachs were starting to growl, you came across a hedgehog residence, which fed you. They gave you fantastic food, they gave you plum wine, and they gave you the equipment you would need to continue your journey safely in return for fixing a certain problem of theirs. They had been receiving visitations from violent toad creatures during the night, stealing their honey further down their land that they owned. This was out of the ordinary, as toads usually didn't range that far south, but needless to say, you dealt with the current issue, and the following morning went on your way, fully provisioned, fully healed up, and ready to make your way towards Salamandastron, the ancient ancestral home of badgers, a fantastic stronghold inhabited by both badgers and hares, hoping that they would be able to fill in the blanks in your story and give you somewhere safe to rest and work out your next steps. Now, the sun is sinking once again into the west, below the distant twinkling of the ocean's horizon. You are all immensely weary, poor-sore, and in need of another good night's rest, but the mountain still seems far away in the distance. You've been walking all day, ever since you left the residence of the hedgehog family, and you're mightily grateful for the victuals they supplied you with before your journey. You have mostly been making your way through rocky valleys, lined with gorse, olive, and buckthorn. Small streams meander through these valleys, making their way steadily down to the cliffs and white sand beaches some mile to your west. Even over the tips of the trees and bushes ahead, you can just about make out the silhouette of the mountain. It has been in view now for about 3 miles, materializing out of the warm afternoon haze like a great colossus. There is comfort, however, in knowing you are going the right direction, even if you know not what form the road might take. It is now late, however, and you must think about making camp soon. Whilst you have plenty of trail rations, it is up to you whether you would like to try and forage for ingredients for a hot meal or not, and whereabouts exactly you would like to camp. Over to you.
I say we send a Gruber out to do their foraging. Seemed good at that last time.
I sort of look at the Gruber that's on my back in my little pack, like a baby handler.
Yeah, Gruber, moles are not the longest-legged of creatures. And whilst many moles are incredibly athletic, perhaps it was the sheer amount of food that you were fed over your break at the hedgehog's residence. Gruber seemed extremely tired and fatigued and almost kind of dropped off his twig about an hour ago. And so since then, Holt has kind of been carrying Gruber in a makeshift mole backpack.
Just can't get staff.
He's all right. He's just having a snooze. And your mate, and he sort of looks over, gives it a bit of a jiggle, but nothing happens.
Yeah, the mole is not moving. The nose twitches slightly as you kind of say his name, but he is sound asleep.
Oh, give Grugus a best. I'll look for something. I can normally track things pretty well, but I don't think that plants or vegetables leave tracks. But it's a similar thought, I'm sure. So yeah, I'll see if I can
Okay.
find anything I can find.
In that case, please could you make for me either a survival or a nature check?
That'll be the same. Okay. And that's a d6 times however...
Times the number of ranks, yeah. And if you have any bonus die, roll those as well separately.
Cool. And no bonus die, so 13.
Okay. So, with a 13, yes, that's enough. You, not quite as impressively as Gruber yesterday, but you do come across, you find some olives. There's quite a few olive trees that grow here. It's very warm, as you kind of found out last time. You're quite far south at the moment. So you find a kind of smattering of olives. You find some wild blackberries, which you realize it is kind of early autumn right now. So kind of berries are in fairly abundant supply, and there's plenty of brambles around here. So you come back with a fairly decent amount of forage that would be enough for the small group. It's not really hot food material because you're on here. There's not a huge abundance of kind of root vegetables, but it's still some fresh food.
Well, everyone, I found olives, if anyone's a fan, and berries. So, not exactly a full meal, but enough to fill our stomachs, I'm sure.
Are we inland more, so we're not by the...
Yes, you're about 1 mile from the actual kind of beach and cliffs by now. You kind of moved a little bit diagonally.
Bolt has just started walking around picking up firewood, or even if it is that just sticks in case of... It's just his normal setup. He normally makes a fire every night, so he's almost automatically gone into the mode of collecting branches and sticks. And you can see there's one big branch. If there is, he's just trying to drag it and step on it and try and break it up.
Sounds about fair. Roll a survival check for me, please, Holt, to see how successfully you build your fire.
Okay, I can kind of do that.
It's a 10. With a 10, yeah, you can put together a fairly modest fire. It's it's not like there's a lot of stone around here, and you feel like if you had maybe had a bit more time, a bit more experience, you could have made a proper nice little fire pit ringed by stone to keep it all in. But for now, this is a fairly rudimentary little wood fire.
Yeah, he sort of neatly stacks it all up. He tries to make it look pretty. It really isn't pretty, but he's really trying to like put it in, especially every now and then checking back at the others to see if they're looking, to make it look like he's doing a good job.
Yeah.
And then starts this fire up.
It's definitely warming, and it's the embers start to kind of take hold of the rest of the leaf litter and twigs and tinder that you've put across. How about Anastasia? What are you up to?
Well, for starters, I'm not accustomed to this surroundings, and I fear that I have not much skill in the finding of food or the building of fires. I could judge people on how well they're doing though. Do that very well. I could maybe look for a decent spot for us to maybe sleep, I suppose. Find some comfortable leaves and try and make some bedding.
All right. Make a survival check for me.
Of course. I'm so survivally. Two of those.
8. Okay. Yeah, you've got some moss, you've got some leaves, and so now kind of the three of you, the badger has returned from his kind of foraging to find one small pile of leaves and moss, one medium-sized pile of leaves and moss, and another medium-sized pile of leaves and moss because you ran out halfway through.
Ta-da! I'm sorry that they're not all exactly the right size for everyone.
Oh no, you did a great job.
Yeah, Holt gives you like a hearty like slap like on the thing, and then realizes like hands full of spine. Ow, ow. It's like no, you did great. Look, it looks real comfy, and he sort of gets down to like try and show how comfy it is.
No, is this the same hand that Holt has like bee stings all over from our last session?
It's an ointment, like he sits down and probably now takes out more and starts rubbing it in.
I'll rub that in for you, Holt.
Thank you, miss.
So you kind of you sit together and you start kind of partaking of this little meal that's been gathered as the smoke from this little fire starts to drift up. And it's quite late now. It's approaching. It's getting towards full darkness at this point. Can I quickly, please? Can I please check all of your passive awareness? So that will be your rank in awareness times by 4.
What math?
I know. Scary.
Mine's 8.
Mine is 16.
16. Okay.
Yeah, 4. Yeah, 4 times 4. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's essentially your defense when it comes to certain contested roles. That's kind of how it works in this system. So the three of you are kind of settling down. You're letting the lull of a hard day's travel start to wash over you. Gruber is already sound asleep. At the moment, still in the backpack. And as you're probably thinking about taking him off your back soon. I mean, he's quite light and so velvety soft, you almost forget that he's there. But just about as you're thinking about this, you hear a little rustle from close by. In fact, you all hear this slight rustle, and indeed, Asher, as your keen senses prick up, and there's almost like this reflex reaction to almost as if you were expecting a threat. You look around and you specifically see a pair of amber eyes reflecting the light of the fire, watching you from a few bushes of kind of gorse about 20 feet from the fire.
Okay. I think he's immediately going to grab his parting hook, his spear, and his makeshift shield, and place himself spear facing out in front of Lady Anastasia and Holt and Sleeping Grouper.
Okay. How are the rest of you reacting to this?
Holt was halfway getting Gruber off and then was stopped, readjusted himself, and just watching Asher, where Asher was going, almost trying to follow his line of sight. Probably can't see anything, but is sort of reaching over for his staff and just walks to him, almost like crouched down.
I am moving behind the large character.
So as you move yourself slowly behind the impressive defensive bulk of Asher, Asher, you see this pair of eyes blink for a moment, and then there, with that perception, you hear kind of a kind of like a tutting sound almost, of frustration, and then the eyes disappear, and there is a rustle that now you all hear. And Asher, again, you get the impression this particular sound probably came from more than one creature, but the eyes disappear and you hear the sounds getting quieter as whatever it was starts to dash away from your little makeshift camp.
But he's going to shout, "Aye, come back here. What do you want?"
Doesn't seem to be a response. Would you like to give chase, or are you going to let them run?
I think that with the long day, he's not going to give chase, but he is going to go over to the bushes very carefully. And at this point, I will actually use my 1 point in tracking and see if I can see if there's footprints or anything, and
Yeah,
see if he
absolutely.
can determine what might have left them.
Roll your tracking.
Okay. 10.
10. Okay. You make out 3 sets of paw prints, making their way firstly towards your camp. They stop at the edge of the bushes, and then they retreat swiftly away from the bushes. And it looks like they were walking quietly, trying to be stealthy on their approach, and then they've sprinted back the way they've come. And with 10, let me just have a quick look at my chart. You recognize one of the sets of paw prints definitely are the prints of a rat. The other 2, you're not completely sure. All you know is they aren't rats. You met a rat yesterday. They feel familiar, as if you've seen them before, or this kind of print, but at the moment your memory isn't quite dredging it up. However, the rat prints you recognize.
Is he able to determine if they're like mammalian or amphibian or?
Oh, they're certainly mammalian. They're like a smaller version of Holt's paws almost.
Okay. All right. Yeah, and he doesn't see any sign of them besides the paw prints.
No, you can kind of catch the sounds of them heading up the kind of the hill of the valley in front of you. They're just they aren't trying to be incredibly stealthy now that they've been spotted.
Okay. Yeah, I think he's going to go back to the fire, and it looks like we had some visitors. Perhaps not the friendly kind, but they're gone now.
We should move them, mate. Well, now they know where we are.
Yeah. Well, they might know. I mean, if we move, they'll know where we're going to. It's they've probably been following us. Maybe. I don't know. Two options. We can pack up and move and keep going despite being tired, or we can set up a watch and hope for the best here tonight.
And Holt looks sort of over in the distance as to can we see anything of them moving, or
So The rustling sounds have now faded away.
Mhm.
What you see, essentially where you're camped currently, is you are kind of in the bowl part of a kind of a craggly coastal valley. There is a little stream where you've been able to kind of drink proper fresh water that runs down towards the beaches about a mile to your west. You're surrounded by kind of gorse bushes, heather, kind of craggly olive trees. There's like buckthorn and a few other very hardy plants. In front of you, the direction the creatures came from, is the wall of the valley. So it scales upwards fairly steeply and then reaches kind of like a hill that you can't quite see over. In that direction, though, is where the silhouette of the mountain is just visible, poking over the tip of the edge of the valley. Still a long way away. The mountain itself looks like it's still at least 2 days travel from here, but that's the direction they came from.
And Holt sort of looks into the distance. Well, may as well just settle down, right? We can eat something. We've got time to eat something at least, right?
Absolutely.
There's always time to eat something, personally.
Oh, thank gosh. And sort of like
Build the
flops
fire, we
himself
have
down
berries.
onto this mat and just starts picking, like putting all these, like, again, being very careful because he's not very good at not squishing things.
Yeah.
Picking the berries and the olives and putting them in the palm of his hand, and then
I find some little sticks to poke into the olives.
like Holt offers them back to Gruber, and if there's no reaction, sort of goes back.
Gruber is still snoozing right away. But yeah, you can kind of have your meal. Like those of you that kind of remain alert, there doesn't seem to be, you don't really hear anything else for the time that you are eating. And then once that's kind of done with that part, it's up to you. You can rest for the night. You are all very tired. It's been a full day's travel. Or you can try and find somewhere else, or you can continue. Or something else.
I think we're trying to stay in here for the night, and because I'm volunteering that, I'm happy to take first watch.
Okay.
Holt sort of looks over. He's like, well, you know, I am quite tired. And just sort of does like a bit of a stretch, goes to lay down, and he goes, oh, and then takes Gruber off, and then there's almost like a like you feel some of the ground not shake, but you can feel him land as this just hefty sort of shouldered otter just crashes.
I meant to ask you last time. Does Holt have to hold hands when he's sleeping? Is that like?
He sits there like that.
Okay, just
He
with himself.
sleeps like that. He doesn't have a rock, so he's kind of hold Gruber's hand.
We just got away. Cute. I'll take the second watch. Wake me up.
Oh, it's just wake me up. We didn't need me.
I roll up into the
Rolls
ball.
over like.
Okay, so as Asher takes the first watch of the night, you kind of settle back. You find somewhere comfortable to sit and wait and keep an eye. And as everything kind of settles down around you and the sounds of the night properly get going, I would like you to make an awareness check for me.
Okay. I have notice. Does that help?
Yeah, I'll give you notice. Okay, so I assume hang on, I'm wrong. Cool. So the 6 you would sub in for the 1, so that
Right.
will bring you up to 18. Lovely, that's really good. So you're sitting there comfortably. You have the big kind of barge hook kind of across your lap, ready just in case. And you don't hear any more creatures coming to investigate your camp. However, you start to hear a particular sound. It's rhythmic, and it it's not so much you hearing it, it's almost as if you feel it in kind of the vibrations coming through the ground. And then you realize it's drum beats. There is kind of this continuous low sound of drums coming from the north. And it just kind of permeates the air around you, and you only really notice it when you really calm yourself and you open your ears and senses to the night air. But it's there, and it continues with no sign of abating. It doesn't get louder or quieter. It doesn't seem to be moving. But the more you notice it, the more its ever-presence just kind of takes hold of your attention.
I can't really tell where it's coming from, necessarily.
It's coming from roughly the north, which is where the three tracks that you saw were scurrying away to.
Okay. All right. If there's no change in the drums, I think he's just gonna not disturb the others, but yeah, keep it ever present.
Okay. And a few more hours pass. Nothing seems to change. The night wanes on. Drums remain, as do your sleeping companions, and everything otherwise seems quiet until the time comes to wake up one of your sleeping companions for a second watch.
Okay. He will gently and courteously, as much as he can, wake Lady Anastasia. My lady, it's, well, your spines look wonderful. Don't worry. It's if you don't mind,
Of course.
Should I?
Do my part.
If you can just listen for just a second, you hear drum beating. Or is that just me? Yes. It started a few hours ago. It hasn't really changed, but that's something to pay attention to, I suppose.
Yes. If it gets louder, I shall wake you up.
That's a good plan.
Excellent. Okay, I am fine. I can do this. I'm not nervous at all.
Do you want a spear and a shield?
Oh, I have my garden shears.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
I shall stick them in the mud next to me and sit and watch. Good night.
Good night. Yeah, Asher's just gonna hit the dirt.
All right, Lady Anastasia, you are alone and the only one conscious of your small party as the night wears on. Could you please make an awareness check for me?
So I also have notice, so I will roll that one and then roll my one. I'll swap that one and that 2 around.
Okay, that's right. We've got a 13. 13's not bad. So you can also hear the drums. It's again, the more you notice it being there, the more it seems like almost the only thing that you can really hear. Sometimes you feel like they're getting louder, but then you realize no, it's just that you're focusing on them. The other sounds of the night are there's nothing threatening. You can't hear any rustling. You don't see any eyes. No one seems to be coming to investigate your little camp. It's quiet and peaceful as far as you can tell, and apart from the sound of the drums, everything seems normal.
Okay. Excellent.
And as the hours pass, again, no one seems to come and interfere with your camp. It remains quiet until you feel like surely it must be starting to get lighter now. And you reckon it must be a couple of hours before dawn. And if you wanted to wake and halt for the final watch, you'd be able to grab a few more hours of sleep.
I'll do that. Halt. Halt.
And he's just got that twitch of his nose, his hands moving at the same time. He's like, sort of rolls over, and you see his tongue sort of like lick his lips, and you think he's probably dreaming about something. He's like, "Oh, good morning, Mom. Is it my turn?"
It is. There is
Okay, I got this.
there's strange drum noises. They haven't got any closer, but they've been going for a while.
What drum noises?
Listen.
Do I hear drum noises?
Once she's pointed them out and you kind of listen for it, yeah, you can make them out.
Is it? Oh yeah, it's a bit of a funny time to be doing that. It's all right. I got this. And he just sort of like heaves himself up. Probably stands a lot taller than you. He sort of goes to sit where you sat, stops, picks up Gruber in his little satchel, and then goes and sits cross-legged down. Puts Gruber on his lap and waits with his staff by his side.
Support Gruber.
Yeah, he's scared of leaving him because he's very small. Like if he can pick him up and take him away from
as well.
us,
Easy to lose in the Dark Knight.
Hmm.
Okay, so Lady Anastasia, you may now kind of take your rest if you would like to. As for Holt, as you make yourself kind of comfortable, you get ready for your hours of watch. Could you please make an awareness check for me?
Awareness check, yes I can. Ooh. 11.
11. Okay, it's not bad. Once similar to the other two, you hear the drums. There is little else of note. In fact, roll a nature check for me.
A nature check. Hang on, where is that? Oh god. Yay!
Okay. It's not hard to notice as you realize it must be getting towards dawn because the sky is starting to just about lighten. You realize there should really be a much more energetic dawn chorus about now. You should be hearing birds, even insects and things. You should be able to hear more than you're hearing. It seems as if this place is remarkably deserted of other creatures, as in things like bugs and birds. There's not much to hear other than those drums, which as dawn gets closer, the drums actually start to peter out. They start to fade away. Not the kind of fading that you'd get with distance, the kind of fading that you'd get when many, many, many drummers stop playing.
Yeah, and he sort of puts his nose to the air and sniffs from one side to the other, not hearing any bugs or birds or anything. Sort of looks around for a bit and hearing the drums goes, well, he stopped. I suppose that's a good thing. And he sort of stands up and walks over towards where Asher is sleeping. Is this the sort of time that he would wake Asher up?
Yeah, it's about dawn now. So if you wanted to get going at first light, now would be about when you start packing up your camp.
Yeah, he sort of walks over to Asher. He hesitates at like tapping him. He doesn't really know, like Holt's normally traveled on his own, so he sort of hovers, probably a bit weirdly, like over this badger, like like goes to tap him and then ends up using his tail to sort of
I
like
think before you can even tap him, just like hovering over him, Asher's eyes just open, and there's just a hovering otter.
Is it?
Ugh!
Sorry, mate. I didn't mean to wake you up quite like that. I don't know. I didn't know how do you wake a person, a creature.
No, it's fine. Everything okay?
Yes, it's just like it's dawn. The drums are gone, but there's also no birds or bugs or bees. Thank God. And he sort of holds up his paws. It's like, but we should probably get moving. I'm not waking her up. He sort of points over to Lady Anastasia.
No, this will be good practice. You need to learn how to wake other people up in a nice, courteous way. You just a slight tap, and you say, "Excuse me, miss."
Oh, okay, help Gruber, and sort of like passes you this sleeping mole, and he's like,
Holding the mole football, yeah.
yeah, he's almost like he starts doing a warm up because he's nervous, and he starts putting his arms around. He's like, okay, I've got this, Hulk. I've got this. It's fine. And he
You
sort
got
of
this.
walks over. He's like, and then just tap like on the nose, like as he gets closer. Mom, it is dawning. It is time for us to go.
Okay, just so you know, hitting someone in the face is not how you wake a lady. But
Oh, like looks back at Asher like.
It was a solid 7 out of 10.
Fab. Walks over, takes Gruber, and starts going. Goes to pick up his staff.
Next time, shoulder, not face.
And he looks like at the spines and at his hands, and is like, "All right, mate," and keeps going.
So you kind of pick up your equipment. The ashes of the fire are still there. The embers have kind of died out by now. Would you like to just leave it as it is?
Well, that's how forest fires get started. No, we're going to, kick some sand.
Okay, yeah, there's enough kind of like dirt and stuff to smother it around.
We don't
so
need
you're able
bears
to...
showing up in this game and lecturing us about forest fires.
If a bear shows up, they probably won't lecture you about forest fires. But you kind of put out the still warm ashes, and you make sure the fire has been safely kind of dealt with. And the morning is yours. All of you realize that you can't hear the drums anymore. There you can kind of the sounds this morning are, you can hear the wind is kind of passing through the gnarled branches of the kind of buckthorn and the olive trees around this region. And there's a slight kind of, you hear the rustle of the leaves as the wind is kind of moving a little bit more than it was last night. Other than that, from here, you don't quite make out anything else. You know that the direction you have to take is north, towards basically keep the mountains straight ahead of you.
I think Colt is marching and humming as he goes, just like, like quite probably because he's not used to having to hide, because he can't hide. He's
not a hider.
He's got his staff and he's placing it down in almost like a rhythm with his feet. Gruber now attached to his front just so he can see what he's doing, and just humming as he goes, glancing back with like a smile to the others every now and then, but he's quite happy.
All right, the other two following?
Yes, I shall be in the middle of the two larger ones. And she shall be just every once in a while sort of fluffing out her cloak so it trails behind her in a sort of regal manner, and pretending that she's not boiling hot with all this walking with her tiny little legs, and trying to stay composed, and sometimes humming along to the song that Holt is humming as well, and then stopping herself because it's not ladylike. It's and then joining back in again.
Yeah, the curious thing is you're not sure. You're not really sure why that you know the song that Holt also happens to know, but it feels very familiar as you're kind of humming along from time to time.
Very strange.
I think Asher's taking up the rear, and he's also dragging his cloak a little intentionally, trying to at least disturb their paw prints.
Okay.
In
In that case, if you could make a survival check as you head up the other side of this valley. This way does take you in the direction of the paw prints that were receding from last night. Do you wish to kind of carry on as you are?
I'm just following Holt, so if he's going forward, I'm following.
Yeah, he's going until he's told to stop. Like,
okay.
his tail's going like quite. He's aware of his tail, but there's enough space here for him to sort of move it and hopefully try not trip up.
So with an 8, Asher, you're able to kind of. Yeah, you reckon you've disturbed the footprints? There's kind of might be a patch where maybe 1 footprint or 2 footprints can be seen. It's not perfect, but you've at least messed it up and made it more confusing. So as you approach the kind of the crest of this particular little valley, to start with, could Holt please make an awareness check?
Yes, he can. Oh God, he is humming away.
All right. In that case, next then, could Anastasia please make an awareness check, since you are just behind Holt?
Do I get my notice as well?
Yes, you would. So you can roll that and see if you can swap in for any of those threes. Okay, no. All right, but 9 is better than a 6, and it's just about good enough. As you start to go over the crest of this valley, you spot something ahead of you that stops you in your tracks, and instinctually, you try and reach out and grab Holt.
I'm trying to grab Holt's tail.
Yeah. Could you make either an athletics or an agility check for me?
Both the same.
Unless I can see a stat that works better, but I think it's that.
It's a shame that Holt can't use Groover as like a permanent lookout, just
Yeah.
a little attachment on the front. Like a GoPro.
Oh dear.
7 to grab the tail.
All right, it's a long tail. That will be enough. Holt, you suddenly feel Anastasia's paws grip the end of your very long tail and kind of pull you back.
Sort of like stops. Suddenly, no one's grabbed his tail before. He's like, "Yes, Mum."
So the bop on the nose. Over there, there's something in front of us.
So as you take a moment to actually look at your surroundings, Holt, and by this time, Asher will have caught up and will also see what you're all staring at. You see in front of you light, a field of light. Countless fires illuminate the early morning. There is still a slightly purplish blue tinge, as it's very early and the sun hasn't fully risen. But you see these fires just going almost as far as you can see, glimmering innocently below you. They illuminate hundreds of tents, ragged and many of them homespun, pitched in chaotic circles, stretching from the base of the hill below you, which is probably the base of the hill would probably be about a quarter of a mile in front of you, and they stretch from there far off into the distance. There must be hundreds of them, maybe approaching 1,000. You can hear sounds of movement, sounds of activity, sounds of life. And you can see creatures milling around between the tents. You see you see creatures eating, kind of scrapping with each other with a lot of very nasty looking weaponry. And you see lots and lots of cooking pots, all manner of flotsam from the surrounding woodland and coast. There's like a smell of roasting fish and seaweed and goodness knows what else kind of wafts past you in waves. These creatures you recognize some of them. You can see a lot of rats, very similar to the one you met the day before. You can see creatures that look very much like Holt, but a little bit smaller, a little bit more sinewy. You can see all of you, could you please roll a will check for me?
A will, was that, sorry?
Yep.
Will.
It's kind of what I'm using from memory.
I rolled some good dice.
Ooh. Wow. All right, so all of you rolled very well. Starting with Anastasia, you're a learned hedgehog. You know this, of course you do. You're a lady, a refined lady who has spent much time reading in her years, so you are knowledgeable of the way the world is, and you know of all sorts of creatures. So you recognize below you, you see, indeed, there were rats. You see rats both of a kind of a swashbuckling, seaworthy nature. You see rats that look a little bit more of clans that stick to the inland areas. You can also see ferrets, which are similar to your companion Holt, but a little skinnier with these striped patterns on them. A lot of ferrets are kind of, a lot of them have kind of enhanced their stripes with dyes and paint. You can also see weasels, which are a little bit, some of them are bigger. Weasels are weird. They can be a lot of different sizes, especially the really burly ones, and there are some big weasels down there. You see stoats, you see, perhaps most impressively, you see several foxes, which are bigger than the other animals with these beautiful long brush-like tails, although many of them look like they've fallen upon hard times and are a little bit more mangy than the others. You see, very occasionally, you will see a squirrel. You see what might be the odd, like these tiny little figures that maybe are shrews, maybe? You're not quite sure. But there is a vast array of creatures down below you, and they are all dressed as if they are about to go into battle. There is all manner of cruel-looking weaponry and patchy armor, and tents that are just kind of filled with all this kind of like weapons of war and very unpleasant-natured objects. Holt, you recognize the creatures a little bit like yourself. You know that you're not too distantly related. You recognize the ferrets, the stoats, and the weasels. And you feel like you might have seen a fox before, but they're very impressive. As for Asher, as you're surveying the scene, whilst you might not recognize individually what all the creatures are, you suddenly take a few steps back as your mind is flooded with images. You take a moment to catch yourself, and you see visions of countless beasts armed like the ones below with rough, partially rusted weapons that have been ill-treated and poorly made. But you see countless scores of these individuals cresting a sand dune and sprinting down, hurling war cries towards you. And then you see an immense figure, a huge figure standing in front of you, and you immediately have the sense of warmth and of courage. And you see that it is a badger with these incredibly strong, very dark black stripes going down the head, and there is a rippling blue cloak edged in silver velvet trim trailing from the shoulders. And as the badger looks around and meets your eyes, they smile, and you can see, you know, there's a familiarity. You know this badger. You know this is a female badger, and she is smiling at you as she is gripping this enormous war hammer that looks like it's been gilded in silver with these beautiful carvings around the outside. And she steps forward and then charges towards the foe that's bearing down the sand dunes towards you. And then all of a sudden you are surrounded by scores and scores of fighting hares, all armed with pole arms and shields and long swords, and in these glorious silvered armor with these pinions of blue satin trailing behind you as they dash into the battle behind the enormous badger lady. And as soon as you saw this vision, it disappears. And you are back on the crest of the valley, looking down at this immense camp of countless creatures armed to the teeth.
Dang, Rachel.
You okay, Badger?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know. That I had a memory, but it seemed like a dream. No, I'm fine. Don't mind me. Let's pay attention to the horde in front of us.
Yes, pirates and vagabonds.
Can you smell that dinner? Like, and the whole sort of like nose twitches.
I don't think they'll give us any. They look dangerous.
As you're kind of saying that they look dangerous, you can see fairly close to the edge of the camp nearest you. You can see a fight break out between a squirrel and a ferret, and you see a lot of the squirrels here seem to be they're dressed in like this dark green with all these kind of patches sewn into them, and they wear these very decorative bone carved tail rings, which give their tails like this very puffy look to them. Imagine like putting hair bands on a cat's tail, for example, like the fur all kind of poofs out between the bands. And this fight breaks out between these two creatures, and the squirrel is armed with this nasty looking harpoon and just goes to town on this ferret who you think might have stolen some food. And the squirrel just straight up slays the ferret then and there, and then kind of kicks the body aside as he picks up this leg of some kind of waterfowl and strides off with it.
Good gracious. They are brutes.
Everyone, I think we should maybe get lower than we are.
Yes.
Hit the ground, halt. That includes the tail.
Asha, could you make a survival check for me quickly?
Me make a survival check? 14.
Okay, so as a little detail, you can see that if you did wish to avoid the immense camp and all these warlike creatures, you're going to have to head further inland to the east and take an arc that skirts around the edge of the Sea of Tents. The country in that direction that you can kind of see from here, it looks a lot marshier, so harder to pitch any camps on, so there aren't any tents over that way, and more of a kind of a coastal wetland style environment than the dunes and the craggy valleys that you've been traveling through up till this point.
Well, everyone, looks like if we head east, that's our only path, unless there's no way we could make it through this camp unseen, unharmed. This is not a friendly group of creatures before us.
Holt looks himself up and down. He's like, yeah, there's no way I'm getting through there.
No.
Whatever you say, mate. I trust you.
It's going to be unpleasant, but if we go to the marshlands, I think that's our best bet.
How unpleasant. Sorry.
Humid, wet, probably a little smelly. It's swampy.
But I suppose better than certain death.
Better than being stabbed, imprisoned, tortured. Yeah,
Okay.
I'll go for a swamp any day over an army of cutthroats.
Yes. So maybe we should try and see what they're doing as we skirt round. I don't want to get in the middle of a war. This is what I'm worried about. I walk into a marsh and then all of a sudden I'm in the middle of a battle. My little legs aren't made for battles, or my garden shears.
And that's another point, is I sure would actually like some of the armor or weapons they have down there as opposed to a barrel lid. But I just don't think that's worth it. But absolutely, you make a good point that we should see what they're doing. If we do make it Salamandastron, this could very well be a threat to their fortress, their stronghold there.
We could wait till dark and I could try and sneak in. I'm only small.
You want to sneak in? There's a lot of them down there.
But that's why I would sneak.
He has no concept of sneak. He's just...
That also involves waiting an entire day without being seen
That's
on
true.
the outskirts of an army. Perhaps what might be best is you keep your eyes open as we're going, skirting the edge of their encampment, and see what you can see where they're headed, see you can guess their numbers, what their goals might be. I don't want to risk any of us on a suicide mission. Not yet, at least.
I mean, we could see if we could steal something, at least, like a shield for you, that it's not a lid from a wine cask. But I'm sure this is quite adequate.
Wait.
Certainly, if we see something in the outskirts, absolutely. But I'm not going. I don't want to go in dead center or being seen or caught.
Okay. Yes.
And Holt sort of watches and looks back at this army, looking mildly nervous. So we keep an eye on things, but we avoid it.
Yes.
That's the plan.
Let's do that. And he sort of starts edging in the direction that Asher sort of gestured to.
Okay.
He looks like he's trying to be a lot more cautious.
Yeah. So you've got a couple of options. I imagine you probably won't want to essentially remain on the crest of the valley, like the highest point, because obviously that's the easiest place to be spotted. But you can either dip backwards a little bit so you're just down behind the corner of the valley and try and see if it curves around, or there's a way to go around kind of eastwards but still kind of carrying on in a northern direction. Or you can walk down the edge of this valley into the tree line a little bit more, which is a little bit closer to the horde, but you'd probably find it a little easier to keep tabs and make sure you're going the right direction. It's up to you.
Holt is just very aware that he is in no way subtle.
Right. I'm almost thinking maybe for the bigger folk, the tree line is the obvious answer. I just don't really want to split up and have, one person closer and two that aren't, three that aren't technically.
Which way are you going to go?
I know Holt would look to the tree line. He wouldn't say anything. He wouldn't make a decision because he knows he's not well versed in travel or anything, but you can see him nervously looking to the tree line.
I think our safety has to trump anything else at this point. If we do get into a fight, there's no winning it at this point. I vote for the tree line.
Well, why I disagree with you, but I will follow you as you have my bags. So, let us head into the trees.
Holt, you all right with that?
Yeah, no, that's great, mate. Yeah, whatever. Yeah. And he looks mildly nervous, like looking back. And again, you can see he keeps checking almost his figure because he realizes how he feels a bit better because you're bigger than him. But he's also aware of how awkward he is.
Okay.
And he keeps looking down at this mole.
So the tree line begins it's almost right in front of you. You can duck into the undergrowth and you'll be undercover. You'll be down the hill a little bit, so it'll be harder to spot, and you can make sure you're going the right way if you take this direction. So as you start to head through the trees, and you're now taking an easterly kind of direction as you try and do this big long curve to avoid the horde, you are heading towards the marshlands. Could you please each make stealth checks for me?
Oh, thank God, at least I got 6.
It's a good roll for you guys. Sorry, Derek, had you already rolled? I can't tell if that's from now or earlier.
Sorry, that's from now. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So the 8. All right. So as you make your way through the trees, you get the impression that you just about kept yourself concealed as you've made your way through these bushes. You can't hear any change in the camp below, and from here you can hear the sounds of the camp a little bit more clearly. You can hear kind of idle arguments, you can hear laughter, you can hear clanging as weapons are kind of tested against weapons and training goes on. You can also hear kind of the clattering of pots and pans and other implements as food is made and shared. And you are making fairly good progress. You've been kind of creeping around for, at this point, coming up on an hour as you head closer towards the marshland. And at this point, the trees grow a little bit larger. They become very mossy, and there's a lot more algae everywhere. A lot of the rocks around you start to be very algae encrusted, and you have to watch where you're putting your paws, as there are copious kind of puddles of some of them are a little bit brackish because of the nature of the soil in these parts, and it kind of smells. It's not a great scent. It's not completely pleasant, but on the plus side, it would make you harder to detect yourselves. And you feel confident that you're getting further away now. You are a little bit safer than you might have been before. You're still close to the horde, but this area is a lot harder to spot you through. And certainly, if you were an army, you would not expect to be attacked from a marsh. You would expect the attack to come from a hill, in kind of the place where you were. So you feel like you wouldn't really be in a place that would be watched too badly about now. So as you carry on, could you make another stealth check for me, and could you make an awareness check as well? You're lucky the 6 and the 4 were that way around, Alice.
Yeah.
Everyone awareness or just...
Everyone awareness, please.
Okay.
Awareness.
Wow, that's got to be the most triple ones. That's awful. But thankfully, you keep as quiet as you can. There is a bit of splashing as paws go through puddles, but it's kind of disguised by the kind of the noise and the ruckus you can hear from the camp. Indeed, Asher, with that, you can just about make out a few words and phrases, and you can hear what sounds like a very deep kind of rough voice calling out to the rest of the camp. They must be calling from somewhere nearby, at least the side of the camp close to you, or you wouldn't really have been able to pick it up. But you hear a voice call out, all right, buckos, make sure you've got this camp packed out. We're moving out tomorrow morning. I don't want any of these tents to be up, or Wargveir's going to tan your hides and then string them up to tan in the sun. And you hear this voice kind of continue to bark out orders, but it sounds for most of them like they are not going to be here much longer.
Sorry, what was the name of the hide tanner?
The name that you hear called out is Wargveir. Wargvir.
All right. Well, okay. Group, gather up. Here's another option. If we can stay the night hidden, they'll be gone in the morning, and perhaps we can move unseen behind them. Perhaps leave some stuff behind, or we can try to get past them and hope they don't catch up to us as we move further north. I can only guess that they're going north. I would think that their target of the forest this large would be Salamandastron. We didn't see anything to the south.
I'm sorry, you want me to sleep in the bog?
If you can.
Not that bad. And he sort of with his foot sort of squishes down on it a bit.
Yeah, Holt's looking very sleek and at home in this kind of environment.
This is not a hedgehog environment.
We can absolutely absolutely keep moving. I just heard that they're moving out.
I don't mind sleeping here. It's quite comfy, really.
Well, if you think it would be best, though I don't like it one bit.
Well, absolutely. I mean, this is just my opinion. It's not a fact. If you would like to keep moving, Lady Anastasia, by all means, we can.
Well, I appreciate you deferring to me, obviously. Someone of my rank obviously makes final decisions and such things. But you are right. And a noble lady must think of her people above her own comforts. And so, if you feel that it would be best that we stay here and then in the morning go back the way we were coming, then I would love to do that.
Good. Like Holt doesn't get it. He's not.
I think Asher's going to take his cloak and kind of bunch it up into like a pillow, sort of, and kind of just like place it behind Lady, and this is so you don't sink in the night.
Do you want my cloak as well? Because I'm fine.
Yes, please.
Okay. And he sort of like starts shrugging it off and sort of tries, because he thinks he's supposed to be doing stuff for you, because he genuinely thinks he was your bag handler now, like tries to pin it around you so that it's like, hey, now you don't have to touch anything.
Oh, a lady could not ask to be with two kinder gentlemen on this strange journey. Yes.
And indeed, you're a little bit more comfortable now. At least you're mostly dry. You're still not quite in the proper heart of the marshlands. It's about late morning. So you could continue a little way if you wanted to find somewhere that was like a good sleeping spot or a good hunker down kind of spot, or you can stay here.
Holt's happy wherever he is, so it's more down to the others. He's in a swamp. He's pretty happy about this.
Asher doesn't like being in one place with an enemy that close. So I think he's going to stay at least undercover, but maybe look for potentially a better spot. He'll
Okay.
Are there any like trees or anything nearby?
Yeah, though this area is quite densely wooded. Again,
Okay.
there's a lot of these puddles and like kind of stagnant pools. You haven't come across a flowing stream or river yet. It's mostly kind of stagnant standing water around here.
Okay. Because where we are is an okay camping spot, he's going to take his badger claws and make a little just scratch on the tree, just in a place where he would kind of know where it was. And they'll keep moving for just a little bit, see if you can find something that has maybe like some tall grass where he can see where the army is, but they can't necessarily see where they are.
Okay, so as you make your way along, I would like you to make an awareness check as you're moving. And how long are you willing to kind of carry on for?
Since you said it was early morning at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think he's probably willing to go at least until dusk. No wasted hours.
Okay.
And he's if the others are tired, he can scout on his own. But awareness.
Awareness. 17. Wow, yes. So you are walking and scouting for about an hour when you come across something quite different. The ground becomes, if anything, wetter and more, less solid as you carry on. The trees are still dense and the roots reach deep underneath the standing water to kind of reach the more solid earth underneath. You do encounter a bit of flowing water in this time. There are a few very green algae crusted streams that lazily make their way down. From what appears to be further in the east, the woods get thicker and thicker until they are a proper dense forest, and the streams kind of come from that direction and kind of head towards the sea, out probably through the camp of warlike beasts. And after a while, you come across something a little strange. You are still not far from the camp. You've kind of skirted around in a nice kind of swinging arc, so keeping the distance between you and the camp similar. And you come across what looks to be several long, smooth poles that have been abandoned in the water. And you carry on a little bit further and you find bark cloth and kind of spun material that's very, very tough fabric, kind of a bit like equivalent of canvas, but made with strong waterproof reeds and covered in mud. And you see colourful feathers and kind of little carved wooden objects that have been broken, and everything has been kind of thrown into the mud and the dirt. And you come across almost like a small field's worth of this detritus just smashed and spread across the ground and into the water and the muck. You see what looks like belongings. You see more kind of fabrics that have now been stained and ruined. And then after a few more minutes, you see a corpse floating in the water. And as you examine it, you see what looks to be a toad that has been slain by what looks like a sword thrust or something. And he's just floating there in the water.
Is everybody else with Asher at this point?
I don't know. Did the others of you follow Asher?
I don't think Holt did.
No.
Okay.
I thought.
I think when Asher comes across this scene, he's immediately going to try to hide and see if he notices any living individuals about.
Okay. Firstly, make a stealth check for me. 9. Okay. Ooh. Just about. All right, so you find a place to hide. This would probably be under like some overhanging roots with some of this long algae-ridden grass trailing down to disguise you, or it could be kind of in a little knot of trees. But wherever you find that's most suitable for you, you hunker down, looking for any signs of life. And it's about 10 minutes pass before you spot somebody. Walking in a westerly direction, back the way that you've come, and seemingly following, well, they're casting around into the mud and looking for what looks like any sign, before one of the figures suddenly points slightly ahead, and you can just about see what they're doing. You see a weasel, and shortly behind the weasel is a ferret. And then as the weasel calls to its companion, a third figure kind of steps out of the trees, and you see a rat. And these 3 figures kind of coalesce over where the weasel was pointing. And the weasel looks around to his companions, and you hear, hey, you, grab claw, I found some tracks. I think they're the big one. From the looks of it, he might have abandoned his friends. He's come out here into the swamp. I can't tell where he's gone next. But I can't see any tracks going back. It looks like the 3 little ones might be on their own now. I think the badger might have left them. Now's probably a good time. We should go for it. I mean, Warveer said to keep an eye on them, but I didn't know if you want. I don't think we should engage yet, says the ferret to the weasel. Before the weasel kind of counters, it's rubbish. If we can take them in, we can take them in and have them questioned, have them torch the information out of them. We'll find out what they're doing, why they're keeping an eye on our camp, and find out if they're going to go and tell those hares up at Salamandastron. We don't want the long patrol coming around here and cutting us off. And the ferret kind of nods, seems to defer to some kind of senior rank from the weasel. The rats just kind of watching him passively and kind of casting his gaze around before the ferret replies. All right. We'll go after them. We'll take out the 3 little ones. I'm just, as long as the badger's not there, okay? And the weasel looks back and nods, like, sure. Now's the best time. We don't have to deal with a badger lord. That would be ridiculous. Now, follow me, keep quiet, and move fast. And with that, the trio dash off in the direction you came.
Okay. So they've left the area?
Yeah.
Okay, Asher's gonna duck back out of cover. Are there any weapons or anything laying around, or is it all just general detritus?
Roll. Ooh, let's think. Roll an awareness check for me, just to see.
Okay. This count for like notice?
Yeah, this will count for notice. 15.
Yeah, stick with 15.
I will say you can take what I'm about to give you, or you can spend a destiny point to find something much more impressive.
Okay. I actually will spend a destiny point.
All right, so you cast around the swamp, kind of knowing that those 3 individuals from the horde are on their way back to find out where your friends are. And as you're looking around, you see partially submerged. You see a barbed tip of something glimmering in the mud.
Yeah, if he can reach it with his paws, he's gonna.
Yeah, you can grab it. As you pull it out, there's this kind of sound as you pull it out of the mud, and it kind of tries to grab it off you, but you might have to fight and pull it out with your far superior strength. And you find that you're holding a peculiar weapon. In your hands, it's a one-handed spear. You feel like in any other creature, it would probably take 2 hands to wield this. It's a very strange spear-like implement with 2 barbed prongs, almost a bit like a trident, but only with two kind of tines. And it's got these nasty little barbs on the actual spines itself. And it looks like it was beautifully, lovingly made by whoever crafted it. There is some kind of leather. You try not to think of where it's come from, just kind of wrapped in a spiral portion down the actual grip, so it's very comfortable to hold. You can see that there are some beautiful seabird feathers that have been tied to the just below the actual sharp part of the spear. So you have what is a frog spear, and this will deal damage equal to your agility +1, and it is adaptable. So if you would like to use it with 2 hands, which means you wouldn't get the benefits of your shield when you use it, you can do an extra 1 damage. Okay. Make a note of that.
And once he has that, he's going to take the path that he took in. He's going to trace that back, and not exactly stealthily at this point. He's going to be racing back towards the others.
All right, so we're going to pan back to the other 3 members of our little party. Gruber is still snoozing. You reckon the travel and stress, maybe the way he got hit in the head, he's probably still sleeping it off. He's still snoozing away, kind of strapped to your chest, Holt, if you're still carrying him. He's small and soft. It's not too much of a burden to carry this little mole. You're kind of sitting there with Anastasia, just kind of waiting. Are you doing anything particular whilst you've kind of, Asher's gone out scouting?
Don't you think Holt is? I think he's picking leaves off of the mold as you walk through if there's anything that's debris.
Yeah, there's lots of bits that have got stuck to your mole friend's kind of velvety fur.
I'm going to rub some salve into Holt's hands again for the bee stings to make sure that they are healing nicely. Just check them over, make sure that they don't look infected because of all this gross stuff.
Thanks.
Oh yeah, I will quickly say for reference, sorry Asher, you can use either agility or athletics for that weapon. that makes that a bit more clear. But yeah, you're both a bit covered in stuff. Anastasia, there is leaf litter and bits of kind of stringy algae just all over your spines, like cobwebs. It's not pleasant.
No, this is not what I signed up for, but...
It's all right. We'll get you back to where you were from.
Yes, and it's not ladylike to complain, so I apologise. I will try harder to be a better role model for you all.
It's all right. It's like you're allowed to complain.
Good, because it's really gross here, and I really hate it.
Right, and he doesn't tap you on the nose. That's it. Let it all out. It's fine. Like, in the middle.
Much better now. Thank you. Yes. Where did Asher get to?
It has
we'll
been
probably
about
be
an
here.
hour at this point, hour and a half almost.
I mean, he's got long legs. Should be back soon.
Yes, unless he's got lost in this boggy, swampy wasteland.
I think he knows what he's doing. Like, and that Holt Jin thinks that Asher knows everything to do with it. So he'll be back. I know he will.
Okay.
So the minutes pass, and the uncomfortable humidity of the swamp just kind of creeps under your fur, and it's just unpleasant. There are lots of little bugs. A very large, fat fly buzzes lazily past your nose, Holt, as you're sat there. You kind of feel your stomach growl a little bit as well. It's been a while since you had any food, and it really must be lunchtime by now.
He sort of puts a hat, like both of his hands on his stomach, like as he can feel it rumble, sort of hoping no one else can hear it, but probably can. Swats the fly from his nose, and it's just like,
Do things live in the swamp? Like
oh yeah,
bugs and such?
of course.
Both of you roll a nature check.
Nature check. I'm so bad. I don't know.
I mean, as far as you're concerned, Holt, you could live in this swamp. It's lovely.
Well, he's just like, well, I'm in here, so gotta be someone else in here.
You live here now.
Yeah.
Anastasia, as you say this, you're like, yeah, you feel like some nasty things could definitely live in a swamp. You feel like, well, you know, the frogs live in swamps and they can be quite unpleasant. Toads as well. Well, you know, they don't have any manners. You found that out last night. Night before last. And then as you think further, suddenly your blood kind of feels a little bit cold as you realize you think that snakes live in swamps as well, and snakes are very scary and very unpleasant. You would definitely try and eat a small creature.
Holt sat there with a smile on his face, looking around at everything.
I'm not sure we should have let the badger leave us.
Why?
And just as you say that, I would like you both to tell me your passive awareness as I roll some dice.
That's the 4 3s, is it?
Yeah.
Awareness.
That's 4 times your normal awareness.
That's it.
Friend.
8. That's okay, so oh.
So 8 for both of you, was it?
The 12 for me.
8 and 12. Okay. So you're both suddenly startled as you hear a kind of a snicker from kind of behind you in the direction that Asher went, and you hear a voice that says, "No, the badger definitely shouldn't have left you, and we are going to roll initiative."
Oh no!
Oh no!
How do we roll initiative again?
Initiative is an agility check.
Agility. Oh.
Okay, I'm also going to roll some agility checks too for these guys. particularly agile. Oh wow, that was dreadful. Okay, so okay, so first up is Holt, because Asha has not quite caught up yet.
Yeah, and I have disadvantage anyway, so I rolled 5. It is.
Holt, what do? You look around. You can see 2 creatures are watching you from the tree line, kind of standing over the muddy, wet, nasty pools, looking at you, and they are armed. You see the one that has spoken appears to be a weasel, and the weasel is armed with this nasty-looking cutlass. Standing by the weasel's side is a ferret who seems to kind of be laughing along with the weasel's kind of jest, and the ferret is armed with what looks like a nasty-looking kind of battle axe of some sort. And they've just got within kind of the area where you guys were resting, and they're about to kind of pounce, but with your reactions, you were able to act first.
Okay.
So, first things first. Sorry, we're going through a Song of Ice and Fire combat now.
Right.
First things first, we have to establish the battlefield. You are in a swamp. A swamp is not great fighting terrain. So whilst you're here, your movement is going to be halved because of the way the mud kind of sucks at your ankles as you try and move. The cover, there's a lot of cover. There are trees and bushes and rocks everywhere. So, for example, you can take a lesser action. Bearing in mind you get 2 lesser actions or 1 greater action. You can take a lesser action to duck behind cover, which essentially increases your combat defense by 5, which is something worth bearing in mind when there is a lot of cover around. Other than that, I'm not going to add in any other major aspects to the environment. So we've got our initiative rolled. So it is now time for Holt to decide.
Holt sort of stands, straightens out his shoulders, just trying to make himself look as big as possible, as he sort of swivels this mole round to his back because he daren't put him down. And with his staff, he's not going to say anything. He's actually just going to walk up and just crack across this.
Okay,
creatures
I love it.
or whatever.
So as you get closer to these nasty-looking creatures, I just lost my page. Hold on just 1 second. You see. Oh my goodness, I'm so bad at finding these pages. There it is. Okay, you see that the weasel appears to be armed in some kind of light chainmail, and the ferret at its side is armored in what looks like ringmail, which is like a slightly weaker version of chainmail. So they have more armor than the last foes you faced, but you go in for a crack with your staff. So could you please roll a fighting check for me with any specialties you might have?
And that's athletics, isn't it?
No, it's fighting.
Fighting.
There's a stat for fighting, which
Hang on,
throws people off in the system. It's a bit different.
I have 2 specialities.
All right, so you roll 2 extra. So you roll 2 extra dice for that.
Okay.
Ooh. Okay, so we replaced one of the 1s and one of the 2s with. So we're just going to total up the biggest ones. So that'll be a total of 19, which absolutely is going to get through. Are you attacking the weasel, or just the one that spoke?
The one that, if there was one that looked particularly bigger, like more meant that you thought he
The
would
weasel looks like the superior one. The one who seems
probably go for that one because it looks like it has vicious intent, so he just swipes towards it.
All right, so you swipe to hit this weasel, and the weasel has a kind of a buckler that tries to raise, but your staff gets around it. You're fairly nimble, and you smack this weasel for. That's going to be a margin of 8, so 11. Oof, that's going to be triple damage. So what's the normal damage of your staff?
7.
7? Oh my god. So that's going to be tripled. And then we take away the kind of rating of this chap's armor. So 7, 21 minus 6. You catch this weasel by surprise. The weasel clearly expected with the badger gone, the rest of you would be pushovers. Maybe the badger was escorting you. Certainly the hedgehog doesn't look like they would kill someone. As you suddenly dash towards this creature and smack it with your staff, you see this look of shock in the eyes as there is this horrible cracking sound as you strike just in this knot of the shoulder, meets the top of the arm, and there is a horrific cracking sound as the weasel kind of screams and drops the buckler. The weasel looks rough, it looks shocked, it looks as if it's kind of completely lost the use of one of its arms. Okay, so next up is going to be, if this lets me scroll up, I believe our wonderful Anastasia. You look up, you see these creatures bearing down at you. You see Holt just bolts across the short distance between you as these things have tried to sneak up on you, and just cracks one of them with the staff. You then notice, because your awareness was slightly better, you see a third individual is inching towards you through the trees. This one seems to be carrying a short bow and is leveled at the otter, having seen it attack its friend. What would you like to do?
I'm going to pull myself up to my full height. I'm going to spike out my spines a bit and pull out my garden shears, and I say, "You there, vagabond in the bushes! I see you. Now, we might be small looking, but I've killed a toad yesterday, so you don't frighten me. Look what my friend just did to you. Oh, you think because I'm small I won't hurt you, but I definitely might do." I'm gonna start walking over there in a huff, but I'd like to persuade him rather than attack him.
All right, well that will work out quite well because the rat in the trees is just about outside your range of movement in the swampy terrain. However, you can certainly try and make this would be kind of an intimidation check, but that's technically persuasion. Yes. Okay, and is that 5 dice or any bonus dice in there?
5 dice.
Okay, so 5 dice, you brandish these garden shears, and the rat, clearly a creature trained for war, whilst not terrified by your outburst, looks incredibly shocked and fumbles with the arrow that was knocked in the bow, and kind of does that comedic thing where he tries to catch it and it falls through his fingers into the mud, and so is going to essentially have to reload before it can fire, which means it's going to slow down its attack rate, so to speak. Okay.
Listen to you.
Next up is the creatures, in fact. The weasel is going to react to the blow struck by Holt and is going to try and swing back to hit with this mean-looking cutlass. They're going to have a -1 dice penalty because they have lost use of one arm, which is going to throw their balance off. Oh my god, that was a terrible roll. That's not going to hit. As this thing tries to swing at you, Holt utterly misses you, and just glances off and stumbles to the side. The ferret that's next to the weasel is going to follow up and try and kind of attack you where its companion failed. You see it's kind of snarling viciously as it goes for you with this nasty looking battle axe. Okay, that's a bit better. Does a 13 beat your combat defense?
Hang on. Yes, I think it does, yes.
Okay, so find out for me what your armor class is. I don't think you have one yet.
I was going to say I haven't, I'm literally in a waistcoat.
Okay, so what was your combat defense? Is it 12 for you?
Yes.
Okay, as this axe kind of glitters off of the little light that's filtering through the trees, it strikes you, and you take 2 points of damage.
2 points of damage. He sort of cries out as it sort of swipes at him, just like, ow! Legs! Trying to like keep the mole out of the way at the same time.
Yeah, and lastly, the rat that's in the trees, it's kind of fumbling with the bow, manages to knock an arrow with its first letter action, and is only going to get 1 shot off. And it sees that the otter has already taken some damage and is going to try and fire at you as well, Holt. Because he's also trying to like inch away from the crazy looking hedgehog that's terrifying. So, with the bow. Seven. I don't think that hits you. As you see the arrow dings into a tree that was right next to your head and just about misses. However, you hear a sound like crashing through the foliage. And Asher, it is your turn. You can't quite get within melee range because obviously your movement is halved, but you can dash into combat and make your presence known if you like, or I will redact what I said about crashing through the undergrowth. You can try to get a surprise on the others for your next turn.
Is it possible to throw one of the spears?
Ooh. So what weapons have you got right now? You've got the barge hook and the frog spear.
I have the barge hook and the fork spear. Yeah, so I would be throwing the barge hook, I suppose.
The barge hook, if that hits, won't do as much damage because obviously the end is blunt because the hook comes round.
Okay, then yeah, I would throw the fork spear then if that's the more logical.
Cool. Yeah, you can do that. That will be agility because it's a thrown weapon rather than athletics.
Okay.
But it would allow you to.
I do have throw 1 to athletics though. Is that bad?
I'll say what you can do is for this kind of spear, it's a fairly lightweight for you, just because you're using with 2 hands makes it athletics. So I'll say for throwing, it's still agility, but you can use your 1 bonus dice as well.
Okay, that works.
All right, which one are you targeting?
I am going to be targeting the rat. The rat's the one with the bow and arrow, right?
Okay, the rat from you has got cover, so it's got a slightly better defense. Because if you imagine the trees between you and the rat, who's a little further away.
Okay. What do we got then? We have the ferret and the weasel, and the weasel's been engaged, but the ferret hasn't.
Yeah. The ferret, they're both engaged with Holt, but the weasel's the one that got hurt.
Okay. Then yeah, I think he's going to try to throw it at the weasel then.
Okay, so roll that agility check with your bonus dice. Okay, so that's going to be a total of 8.
8.
And you're going for the weasel. That just about hits as the fork spear kind of sails through the air and is going to kind of lodge into the lower back kind of buttocks area of this weasel. And the damage on the fork spear, I believe, is agility +1.
Yeah, agility or athletics.
Okay, because you've thrown it, it's going to be agility.
Right. So my agility score is 2, so that'd be 3.
3 damage. Okay. And you see this thing kind of lodge in. It looks like some of the chainmail armor the creature is wearing has dulled some of it, but the weasel kind of lets out a and kind of flinches back. And as it does this, the ferret looks behind to see that the badger has approached, and then kind of squeals. The badger's come back. What do we do, Cullies? Do you hear this time the rat? The first time the rat has spoken, calls. Doesn't matter if the badger's back. We have to take him down now. They've seen we're following. And with that, that's the end of your turn because you had to obviously move and throw. Right. And next up, we are back to Holt.
And which one? The one that just hit me? Did he move at all, or?
Oh, the ferret is still engaged with you.
Yeah. Okay. I think as this thing swipes at him and catches Holt, he's just sort of grab wherever, he caught and just, as a retaliation, bring that stuff from the ground up and crack.
Okay, nice.
If you can. So that is, hang on, I can use speciality twice, can't I?
Yes.
Okay, so it adds 2 dice, but oh wow, okay.
Okay, so we're just gonna take off the 1 and the 2. That is an immense roll. Oh boy. Okay. So yeah, I don't think there's any way to wrangle this. As you swipe upwards with the staff, you catch the ferret under the jaw, and it's such an almighty smack you give with this staff. You hear there is a kind of like a snapping sound. And when the ferret falls backwards, it doesn't get back up.
Yeah, he sort of just swings it up and turns around to look, and is like, "Ma'am!" Like, turning around now, realizing the hedgehog's not behind him fully.
Okay. Okay, so you've got that, because that's a 2-handed weapon. You can't do a double attack with that one right now. Okay, so next up, what are you doing, Anastasia?
I could turn and see Holt smush that vagabond down, and I'm going to. Is the guy in the bush is still over there?
Yes.
I say, you see what we can do? You need to turn and run away. You have got the wrong people. Leave or feel my shears. And I'll start waddling a little bit further, shaking the shears around.
All right. I mean, you can get close enough to attack if you would like to.
Yes.
Okay. Roll a fighting check for me then.
And I have a bonus on short blades, so that.
Yeah, this is a short blade of a fashion. Oh, lovely. Okay, so that's going to be a 12. That is going to beat its combat defense, which is not very high at all. What is the damage on your shears?
3.
3. Okay, so that's going to be doubled to 6. And the armor is going to negate some of that, but you managed to get a good slice in with these shears, and you nick through some of this light mail armor. And you see the rat kind of flinch, and the long kind of almost sharpened fangs at the front of its muzzle, all yellowed and nasty, and it definitely doesn't clean its teeth.
Oh, disgusting.
Okay. Next up is the foe's turn. The ferret is down. It is not moving. It is now the weasel, who is still slightly off balance, is going to swing at Holt with the cutlass, and it's not going to move or change its stance, so it's going to get 2 attacks with this one-handed weapon. Whoops, hang on, let's type the right thing. Still going to get the penalty for having its arm smashed, though. So it can roll any better. It can't roll much better. Okay, so that's a 13. I think that just beats.
That hits. Yeah, that hits.
Okay. So, you feel the bite of the very nasty cutlass as it slices into your shoulder, dealing 3 points of damage to you. Okay, and then it's going to swing again. This time a little bit better. This time is a 13, 14, 15. I think. Is that how I count? Yes. No?
Yes, this is... No,
it's not a 15. Shut up, Rachel. Because that one was smaller. Sorry, no, 13. So same as last time.
Yeah, that still hits, yeah.
Okay, then that is going to deal another 3 points.
Okay. Yeah, he's sort of like cries out and grabs hold of his shoulder.
You kind of, yeah, you are very bloodied at this point. You've taken a lot of hits. And finally, the rat, still in the forest, now that he's been accosted by these garden shears, just kind of throws down the bow and takes another one of these nasty-looking war axes from behind its back to use it. That was its first lesser action to kind of change what it was armed with, and then is going to take a good swipe at the hedgehog in self-defense. Okay. And it's better with axes than it is with a bow. But not great, gonna be honest. That's a 9. Does that hit you, Anastasia?
10.
All right, so you feel this axe come at you, and just at the last minute, you turn your body and it glances off your tough spines. And there's like a king. Asher, we are back to you. You see the ferret has been felled, but the weasel and Holt are trading blows, and Holt is looking very rough at this point.
How close am I to the wheat?
You could move and get one attack in.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I'll do. I'll strike at the weasel with the parting hook then.
All right, so you kind of run through this heavy mire and muck towards the weasel and make a fighting check for me. Okay. 15. Okay, that will definitely hit the weasel, and that's going to win by enough. Okay, roll your damage, or not roll your damage. What is the damage on your barge hook?
That's athletics, so that's 4.
Oof, and that's going to be doubled. Even with the armor, you swing with this hook, and although it's kind of a blunt instrument when used like this, it's enough. You smack into the skull of the weasel and send it sprawling as it just kind of arcs through the swamp until it hits a tree with a smack and just slowly kind of slides down, and the weasel has been felled.
And he's going to shout out, to answer your question, now that the badger's back, you die.
All right. Next up, Holt. You are not the most comfortable otter right now.
No, Holt is sort of holding on to his shoulder, and it stings. Like his hands sting, his shoulder stings, his leg stings. Like he's having a real bad time of it. And he sort of pulls back and sees the blood on his hands and looks back to where Asher is, Lady Anastasia, and the one that just hit him again. Crack, just trying to get rid of them now, almost like, like swing a boot it across, because he just wants to get it away from them now.
So the one that just hit you just got killed.
Mm-hmm.
So essentially you've got the one that Anastasia is engaged with, which is about a little way away. So you would have to take a good run towards that one and probably couldn't get there in one go and hit.
Could I charge as a special action?
So the thing about the charge attack is it's essentially one less action's worth of movement still. It just combines the two.
Okay,
so you still just about couldn't get there.
Okay, then he's just going to start running towards Lady Anastasia then.
Okay, cool. So you'll be in range to hit on your next turn.
Okay.
And it is the Lady Anastasia's turn now.
I see Holt.
Holt is coming towards you. Holt looks kind of in a bad way. They've taken a lot of hits. Nothing that will debilitate them. Nothing kind of crippling, but they're losing quite a lot of blood.
Oh dear, that doesn't look good at all. I need to get rid of this rat. So I'm just going to stab at him again.
All right, roll a fighting check for me. And if you're not moving or doing anything else this turn, you can attack twice.
I changed my 2 for the 4 for my
Right, so that's a 12, so that will hit. If you could roll, that's just going to be normal damage.
3.
So that's a 3, okay. Again, you feel like the armor has kind of, you don't feel like you've really made satisfying contact. The armor is resisting your garden shears.
Okay. And what weapon is he holding, sorry?
He's holding like a battle axe, like a one-handed axe.
Shears are not going to cut through that. I will just try and stab again.
Okay. Okay.
My 15.
So 15, this time is much better. This will hit, and so your damage is going to be doubled. So you would deal a total of 6 damage. which again, you see as the shears kind of bite in, you manage to get deep enough to cause some damage this time, as the rat kind of grunts with pain as the shears sink through to cut into its flesh. It is now the rat's turn, and the rat is kind of locked into combat with you, and it's just going to try and try and get you with that axe. And the others can kind of just see this mosh as the rat and the hedgehog are kind of locked together, like tussling with various edged weapons. Okay. Ooh, that was a good hit. That is an 18 to hit.
I'd like to use my tough spines and try and take away some of that damage.
All right, so it's going to deal a total of it would deal a total of 6 damage to you. So you can roll an endurance check.
Yep.
And reduce the damage by however much you roll. Well, you can reduce the damage by, it's a kind of like a combination of degrees of success. 16. Wow, okay, that's a very good degree of success. You reduce the damage by 3, so you only take half of that. You take 3 damage directly to you. And to your horror, you realize this axe has kind of clipped some of your spines, and now you're not symmetrical.
Oh, asymmetrical's gone out of fashion.
It's an absolute nightmare. But you don't really have time to think about it too much, because he swings in with another slash of the axe. However, this time it's not quite so good. This is an 11.
Yeah, it still hits. I'm a 10.
So it does hit. So you are going to take an additional... this is going to be 3 damage.
Okay. Can I do tough spines again?
No. So you only have 1 tough spines per combat. What you can do is your health 6 per chance.
Is my health? My health is 9.
Oh, 9. So you can either take another 3 damage and be on 3 HP remaining, or something you can choose to do is you can choose to take an injury, which is essentially you take a scrape that doesn't reduce your HP. However, it will subtract 1 from the end result of future dice pools until you can get it seen to and healed.
I'll take the hit. I don't think that there's a doctor in the swamp.
So the good news is this time it shears the spines on the other side, so you are symmetrical again. But it's kind of a short-lived victory, as you feel like the pain of the axe kind of cutting into you even through the tough spines. It's not nice at all.
They take a really long time to grow. You don't understand.
They really do. But that is the end of your turn. Asha, it is your turn. Now, you were about level with Holt, which means that you would have to take your full action kind of sprinting in that direction to catch up, so you wouldn't be able to make a melee attack this turn. However, I will allow you to pick up a frog spear and make another thrown attack for your full action if you like, bearing in mind that the rat will get some cover.
All right, I will try to throw the frog spear. So I just roll normal
agility plus bonus.
Okay, yeah. So 7.
Okay, so a 7 isn't quite enough as the spear kind of lodges into a tree next to the rat and just kind of goes twang, and kind of hovers there for the moment. However, it is Holt's turn, and Holt, you are close enough to do 2 attacks this turn if you wish.
Yeah, I think the way Holt is acting, after being injured himself, maybe he won't be able to actually lift the stuff itself. So he just wants to tackle this rat that is sort of in...
Okay, so this is going to be there is actually an action for this. You can essentially make a tackle. So you are attempting to pin this thing down.
Yeah, take it out basically, like rugby tackle it straight through.
All right, so you use a greater action. You're going to make an opposed athletics test with this rat.
Okay.
This rat is not amazingly athletic. Yeah, that will do it. You critically succeed on pinning this rat, as you are definitely bigger than it and weigh a lot more than the rat. So as you just kind of rugby tackle it, you can pin it down, and to the degree where the axe in its paw is just wrenched away from it, and it is essentially disarmed and pinned into the mud of the swamp. And it cannot move this turn. It has been completely kind of pinned. It's trying to wriggle, but you're holding it down with your big, strong otter paws. And we are back to Anastasia's turn.
This fiend is still in front of me.
Still, well, not standing, but alive.
It's on the ground.
Yeah, and there is a big otter on it.
Excellent. I kick him in the face, please.
Okay, so this is going to be an unarmed attack, which is which the damage it deals is athletics -3 to a minimum of 1 point of damage.
Damage.
All right, but first roll a fighting check for me. Okay. So that is still going to beat its combat defense, and it is on the floor, so it gets a penalty to that. So the good news is you deal double damage, so you deal 2 points of damage. The bad news is this kick isn't quite enough to get through the armor and deal like anything substantial to the rat. This rat's quite well armored, but it makes you feel
face. Kick him in the face.
Okay, I'll let you do 1 point of damage since it is on the floor and can't really avoid your foot. It is now the rat's turn. It's going to spend its turn attempting to free itself from the paws of our wonderful otter friend. We're going to do another contested athletics check, Holt.
Okay.
It desperately tries to pull itself free, and it's like spitting in your face and really freaking out. I don't think it's practically impossible for it to lose it.
She's just trying to stop it from moving.
Yeah, it is not able to escape at all. And we are back up to Asher. You can see that Holt's got this thing pinned, and you can kind of make your way over now if you would like.
Yeah, I'm gonna go over. I use my movement for still.
Yeah, you can get all your way over. But essentially, if one of the others wants to make an attack, they would get that in before you because you've got to get over there.
Sure.
So Holt, it is technically back to you if you would like to try and make an attack, or if you want to do something else.
I'm gonna try and knock him out. Not kill it.
Yeah, you can. I'm gonna say like D&D, you can decide to non-lethal, if you tell me that. So, yeah, make an attack. Are you just trying to make an unarmed roll here, or are you gonna...
Literally, just gonna be smack out? Okay,
so I'm gonna say because this guy is on a deck, you would get an extra dice to your fighting pool for this one.
Okay.
And because you are literally pinning him down on top of him.
Okay, and it's fighting, so I get speciality die as well. So.
Is your speciality an unarmed though?
I actually think it is.
Oh, okay, then yes.
I think it is because he's not good with.
Okay. Oof. Okay, that's a big old roll. So that's 28. That's going to be triple damage, and this is going to equal your athletics -3.
Okay. Okay, so 7 - 3, yeah.
So triple 4, 12 damage. Yeah, as you really kind of lean back and do a proper kind of jab to the face of this rat, you see the head loll back and it falls very definitely unconscious.
Sorry, I'm fighting my own battle right now because my cat is being... Yeah, but yeah, he just sort of punches and knocks it out. And
yeah,
checking it's definitely out before climbing off it.
Yeah, there is no faking it. I mean, you're a very gullible thought, but this rat's definitely out.
Well,
everyone all right?
You don't touch people in the face to wake them up. You touch them in the face to put them to sleep.
Well, it worked.
It did. Are you all right? You need some first aid, I think.
Yeah, no, I'm fine. It's nothing. And he just sort of like takes his scarf and starts tying it around his shoulder, like
it's
tightly.
Gonna take a little bit of care. So essentially the way healing works, I did go back and do a bit of homework, is If you want to get back some HP, you can once per, I believe it's like once per hour, I'm going to say once before you go down for the night, you bed down for the night, you can essentially do a healing check. Either you can do it yourself, or you can get someone else to do it, or you can make an endurance check. One of those, and however many degrees of success you roll is how many points you get back.
Okay. I know that he's pretty knackered, so as he's sort of like tying this up, he sort of just flops to the floor. Not like collapse, but he just sits and like trying to catch his breath back and drops the staff.
I would like to do some healing on Holt, please.
Okay.
Hoping, if I may, that I could use my needlework kit to stitch up some of the holes.
Okay, I'll give you a bonus dice for that. So
And I'll actually wiggle a little healing train. So I'll be healing Lady Anastasia while she's trying to do that. And
okay.
maybe trying to, like, if there's any overly damaged quills, trying to deal with those, or if she has any cuts or anything.
Okay. So with a total of a very good roll of 16, Anastasia, you are able to heal 3 hit points essentially to Holt. Because healing is not instantaneous, but because you are so good at what you do, you stop the blood flowing. You've done it cleanly. You've made sure to keep your needlework kit fairly clean. Maybe you know a few plants or herbs that are naturally a little bit antiseptic. But you are able to heal 3 points for Holt. Asher, now if you could roll healing for me. Okay, that's also good enough to restore 3 points to Lady Anastasia. As you all kind of tend to each other's wounds, you try and use a bit of really sticky swamp mud to try and reattach some of the spines, which are now kind of littering the ground, which were cut off. And you also have the unconscious rat and the 2 dead, the weasel and the ferret.
I think Asher's going to take the frog spear and carefully to not kill the rat, but he's going to take the 2 prongs and kind of place it over the rat's neck, just to try to pet him down, and then he's going to, for lack of a better term, loot the bodies.
Okay, so on the fallen enemies, on the weasel, you find a nasty-looking cutlass, which technically counts as, in these rules, counts as a bastard blade. And if you were interested, it's athletics damage that it deals. Damage equal to your athletics, I believe, +1. And it's obviously fighting with blades is a specialty to use. And it's pretty nifty looking blade. It's definitely better quality than the other 2. You think that this weasel might have been a higher rank. The ferret is carrying a fairly run-of-the-mill looking battle axe. You, for reference, the battle axe will deal damage equal to athletics. And then the final body, the rat, is carrying a battle axe and also a short bow. And you see that there is a quiver of about 8 arrows on its back.
If I may trade in my garden shears for that cutlass, maybe I could do a little bit more damage.
Yes, certainly. You can take the cutlass.
Everyone is okay with taking the cutlass.
Absolutely. Is the armor recoverable as well?
So the armor is recoverable. However, you would need to take it to a smith to get it refitted, because this is armor for weasels, and rats won't fit a badger quite the same way.
But there was at least a buckler, right? I think so.
Yes, there is a proper buckler that the weasel was armed with that you can definitely take.
How big is the short bow compared to me? Just because he would know how to use it.
Yeah, so rats can get pretty big, and so this short bow is still good short bow size for you. Okay. It would be a bit small in the paws of a badger, but for anything smaller than a badger, it would still ostensibly work like a short bow.
Yeah, he sort of picks it up, looking at it. He's like, "Do you mind if I take this one?"
Go right ahead.
Fab. And he just sort of starts putting this, sort of again checks the mole and puts this like the arrows across his back and stuff, sort of wincing at his shoulder, even though it's tied with the scarf.
With rats, same sort of size as moles.
Yes.
Thinking something for
Yes.
Gruber?
So you and Gruber could definitely wear any of the armor that these creatures are wearing. Holt, you could probably wear some of the mail the weasel had. It won't be quite as effective because it doesn't go down quite far enough. You're a bit tall, but you could probably squeeze into it. However, yeah, the armor will be normal on the other two of you.
Okay. Yeah, he'll take the chainmail, but yeah, we'll see how it works.
Yeah, so with armor, when I find it, because it's in this book, which is very big. Sorry, I will get there. Nope.
While you're looking, Asher does take the buckler and at least one of the battle axes. I think he's he'll take the second battle axe and just kind of tuck it in with Gruber. Just here you go, little one. You can defend yourself now.
Adorable. So Gruber is now armed but asleep.
Little baby Bjord with a battle axe.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little sleepy mole with a battle
I'll
axe.
just chuck it in the back.
Kind of adorable. Hang on, I promise I'm almost at this page. Oh, there's so many pages. Right, so here we are. So the armor, for the sake of Gruber and also Anastasia, the normal kind of ring mail, which is the slightly lighter chain mail, will give you an armor rating of 4.
Okay.
However, it also gives you an armor penalty of 2, which is subtracted from your combat defense. So essentially, in a Song of Ice and Fire roleplay system, if you're wearing armor, it makes you easier to hit because you're a little bit slower. You can't quite maneuver quite so well. However, it can defend you from a majority of damage. So it's a bit of a double-edged sword, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So that's the slightly lighter mail. The one that the weasel was wearing was full mail. So it had an armor rating of 5, but an armor penalty to your combat defense of 3. So it's up to you guys how you want to distribute it. Bear in mind, for you, Holt, any armor that you wear, because it's not sized properly to you, will do 1 less, it will be 1 minus off of the armor rating.
Yeah, he probably won't put it on if it doesn't fit properly.
It's not very comfortable.
To him, if it's uncomfortable, he won't wear it.
That's fair. That's very fair. But yeah, so that's what you find on these unscrupulous individuals. As it kind of settles, you are aware that your battle made quite a lot of noise, with all of Holt's kind of crying out, and also the weasel was basically you two locked in combat, just squealing.
I may have shouted a little bit. I apologise. It was the heat of the moment, blood rage, and all that.
When she says blood rage, Asher, you get like a little kind of. That feels familiar.
Oh, it sounds like a badger.
That sounds like something I know about. Thankfully, did not quite come into play that time.
Yeah, also,
yes.
we should get moving. Again, like still feeling his shoulder that does really ache. But he gathers up his things and looks to the others.
Are you okay to move?
Yeah. Yeah, no, of course I am, mate. I don't want to stay here.
Thought you liked this.
Yeah, but there's dead weasels in this one.
Oh yes, good point. And I'll take my own bags. You rest your shoulder.
Oh no, I can take some.
No, it's fine. Ash will carry it for me.
Thank you, Ash.
I'll carry the Gruber if you pass the Gruber. Well,
Gruber is still sleeping. That was one exhausted mole.
Pass the baby.
And actually, speaking of our fallen foes, is there a deep enough puddle or?
Yeah, there's some bogs that you could probably squish them into. It wouldn't be pleasant, but you could do it.
Well, fighting isn't pleasant. Yeah, I think he's going to hide them, and then did we get rope or anything like that from the mole family?
Yeah, you can say retrospectively if that was something you would have asked for or think you might have needed, then yeah, you can have rope. Kind of
Sure.
standard adventurer's kit stuff.
Sure. Then yeah, I think he's going to try to tie up the rat while that's still unconscious as well.
Okay, yeah. Roll a. Ooh. Either roll a craft or survival check.
-3, craft is 3. 9.
9. Okay. You can successfully tie up the rat. As you are finishing the last knot and he's secure, you see the rat starts to kind of stir and come round, and kind of as the eyes kind of flicker and they suddenly snap open when they see the muzzle of a badger right in front of it. It kind of hisses at you and tries to scrabble back against the tree.
I'll punch him in the face again.
Roll a fighting check. Unless you're trying not to do this, if you're at all pissed off, you might deal enough damage to kill this thing.
Yeah, trying not to kill it. Just a solid but gentle
All right. Okay.
tap to the forehead.
Yeah, the rat kind of like grunts as this hit lands. Spits out quite a few teeth. But I'm going to say you purposefully didn't try and kill it. It does look almost like it's going to fall unconscious again.
Oh, go back to sleep. You're fine. You're fine.
As the head just kind of goes.
And then we push him in a bog and he drowns. The end.
I didn't want to be the one to say it.
Even as you say it, Lady Anastasia, it sounds almost too horrible to really contemplate doing.
Yeah, this is Redwall. I didn't want to murder a prisoner.
What happened? That's so awful.
Yeah, you left for 10 seconds and we murdered someone.
They're discussing drowning a rat in a bog.
Oh. Like
We tied up the rat, I knocked him unconscious again, and now we have an unconscious rat, and we're looking for options, and the obvious option is...
You can't just drown him. Not in a swamp. Like, Colt looks genuinely upset. He's, as much as he has killed people in the past, it's because they're attacking him. He's like, look at him. Like, looks over at this tree, like, tied up. He's like...
Yeah, this rat is now also missing most of his teeth.
Because I kicked him in the face. It's correct.
He did.
It feels wrong to kill an unarmed foe.
Otherwise, we're just like them.
That's true. I'm sorry. The swamp got the better of me. This place has darkened my thoughts.
I sort of walk over to the rat, take a big clump of moss off the ground and shove it in its mouth so he can't scream, though.
You could leave him just dangling from a tree, or tied to a tree, or... But if he happens to scream, then we'll have more unfriendlies.
Noel's just looking at this rat with this now moss shoved in its mouth so that he can't yell. Is he tied down secure enough?
Last I could.
I vote we just leave him. Tied securely, that is. Moss in his mouth, and he sort of looks over. If any of them are wearing any sort of material, he's like,
yeah,
over their head.
They've kind of got like dirty looking kind of tunics and fairly lightweight fabrics. Could you either, all of you, could you either roll it's either going to be a difficult awareness check or an easier crafting check, or I also say you can roll a law check, because any of these things apply. That will give you slightly different details.
This is my highest.
Okay.
That's 14 for me.
I will do crafting, seeing as I have a 4 in that.
Okay, so Holt's. They're kind of lightweight clothes, really.
He's kind of literally looking over it to blindfold him or put like a bag over his head because he's trying to give him no senses possible.
For what you're looking for, absolutely, you can make a blindfold. 100%. Asher, what was it you were rolling specifically?
Oh, sorry, that was awareness.
Awareness. You see that under the armor, these individuals are dressed very lightly. There's not many layers of fabric, and it's all kind of it's quite bright colors. Like a lot of it's quite gaudy. As for Anastasia, again, you are quite a knowledgeable hedgehog who has, you've definitely studied. You might not remember where, but you are a studious individual. These clothes are very indicative of creatures who clearly live in a very hot environment. And you know that, the further south you go, the hotter it gets. But they don't really look like styles you've seen on creatures that you might have seen in the past. And again, it's weird because you can't remember where you've seen these creatures before that are triggering this kind of knowledge. But you recognize that this style is not really of the Southlands.
But if there's one thing I know, it's clothes.
Definitely. You've got these big billowy sleeves, like these kind of very loose-fitting linen kind of shirts over tunics, and almost like these like stripes and patterns, quite gaudy kind of fabrics. Probably look like a lot of them are quite ill-fitting, look like they were stolen potentially, but certainly the clothing of someone from a very warm place, but not one you're familiar with.
Interesting.
Just a little tidbit. But he is tied up securely, and if you wish to blindfold him as well, you definitely can.
Yeah, Holt put a bag over his head. He wants him to have no senses as to where he is or to...
Yeah, very fair. You can... you don't need to roll for that. He's not going anywhere in a hurry. So you're able to blindfold this creature, just kind of put fabric over his head and tie it around. And so you are left in this kind of swampy clearing with 2 dead beasts, 1 unconscious, and 2 of you still reasonably injured.
Holt will probably look to the others and maybe roll the dead ones into the swamp in case someone did come around. If this thing gets its blindfold off, it will have a good idea where it is, if it's where its friends fell.
This was brought up by Asher earlier, so between you, could you roll athletics checks for me? Just kind of see how carefully you can do this.
Was this a strength thing, maybe?
Yes, it's athletics. Yeah, so between you, you are absolutely able to kind of roll the corpses into the deeper parts of the bog, and you kind of watch as they slowly sink underneath the underneath kind of the green of the water, and you're kind of, Asher, you're kind of struck by a rather uncomfortable realization that the reason you probably only saw 1 toad corpse back over at the destroyed kind of settlement that you found was probably because the rest of them were underneath in the water.
Is he maybe making a connection between the toads that they fought the night previous and these toads, or?
Roll either a law or a will check, because I'm using will for memory as well, and law is just natural kind of intelligence.
Yeah, well, I mean, he only saw 1, but whether it was dressed similarly or some of the weapons. So it's a 10.
10. Yes, you saw that the type of weapons, also the design of the frog spear that you've kind of picked up, and the way the fabrics and everything, what they were wearing, the way that they had kind of bark strapped as sort of armor, it was exactly the same as the toads that you saw further south.
Well, I think we find out why those toads we were fighting were heading south when they normally don't. well, I suppose you weren't there. I came across something a little unsettling. It looks like there was perhaps a settlement of toads in this foresty, marshy area, and looks like they were slain, more than likely, by a horde across the hill there. So I definitely think we made the right decision to avoid them, and I am very sorry that I left you all, but I am very happy that you were more than capable of handling yourselves even without me.
You had to scout ahead.
I'm glad you're all in one piece, more or less.
Of course we are, friend. And he sort of like, he does raise his shoulder and sort of wince, but really try not to, and slap you on the shoulder. He's like, I think we should keep moving though. Because I'm just stiffening up.
Yeah, it's about mid-afternoon at this point. Obviously, the actual fight itself didn't take too long, but all of the kind of dealing with the aftermath and healing takes a few hours per attempt to heal as well, because it's not like an instantaneous process. So by this time, it's late afternoon, and if you wanted to get any more kind of distance covered, you'd probably have to set off now to try and get a little bit further.
I know Holt would want to keep moving. He might be a bit slower though.
Are we doing that, or are we tying him up, or are we just letting him? Are we just blinding him and sending him off in a direction?
Well, at the moment he's still tied to a tree.
I'd say leave him tied to the tree, but facing the other way, so he not in the clearing, but facing the other way, just to disorientate him, so he can't get back and say what happened if he does get out.
I'm fine with that. Yeah. Then yes, let's also leave the vicinity of the rat as well.
Okay, so if you want, essentially you, at this point, you've gone as east as far as you need to. Now you can carry on north and head kind of the direction you were originally traveling towards the mountain. And you will skirt the rest of the camp, you think.
Yeah, that's the plan until, I think the plan was to stay under cover until daybreak when the camp leaves. Yeah,
the swamp itself and the cover of the swamp will continue for quite some time. It's just up to you whether you'd like to get any more distance under your belt.
Yeah, I think we'll get distance until it's basically sundown, and then I think Asher especially is going to refocus on treating Holt's injuries. Yeah,
you've got about another hour and a half before dark, so you can cover another good kind of couple of miles. The going's a bit slower in this terrain due to the nature of the sticky mud and the kind of the vines that cling at you as you try and wade your way through. And on your way, you do end up going back through the little toad village. And Anastasia and Holt, you see the remains of this quite little colourful settlement that's just in ruins, and you see the one body of the toad that's above the water level, just kind of bloated, lying there amongst smashed weaponry, smashed belongings, broken poles of homesteads. It's not the most pleasant sight.
Sort of shields them, even though the mole's asleep. His instinct is to shield the mole's eyes as they walk past, sort of trying to not look himself, because he finds it just upsetting.
Yeah. But you make it through, and eventually it gets dark a little bit quicker down here due to the cover of the undergrowth in this swamp. So before long, you can see that the sun must have sunk fairly low because the light is almost gone. And whilst you can all just about see what you're doing, none of you are naturally amazing at seeing in low light. The best of you is probably Asha, actually. Anastasia, not too bad. Yeah, Gruber would be great. Well, Gruber's good at sensing the eyes. Other senses.
Shaking the mold at this point. Wake up.
Unfortunately, Gribber is still snoozing away. However, it does get to a point where it gets dark to the point that you feel like if you wanted to make camp, it's probably not going to get any easier to travel.
I think this is probably the best bet. Holt, probably no fire tonight.
No, I almost picked up your accent. No fire. I was like, no fire.
Please, someone else is doing it.
Happens all the time.
Let's just try to get as much sleep as we can.
And you know that you can you can check on the wounds tomorrow morning and try and kind of just clean them and try and heal yourselves up a little bit more when day breaks. But for tonight, there's nothing else you can really do for them. You do feel a little bit hungry, though, as the evening draws in. You haven't eaten since the little snacks you had at lunchtime. And, it's very important to eat. You're not... you imagine there's probably quite a lot of forage around here if you know what you're looking for and you're used to swamp terrain. But if you're not used to this environment, you might struggle. Again, Holt, you're not unfamiliar with this kind of wetland area. You think you could probably find some bits and pieces. Whether it would be to everyone's taste is debatable, but you do still have quite a lot of rations that the hedgehogs gave you.
Yeah, I think Holt doesn't feel in any mood to go sort of scavenging, basically, to go and find something.
Been split up and ambushed once.
Yeah, he's kind of like, I'll take first watch, and there's no way I'm sleeping on this arm anyway, and sort of like pulls this bread out of his bag and just sort of half crouches down, and with his good arm is just eating this bread.
Yeah, so you've got kind of this fairly fresh bread still, and it's stayed you've kept all of your supplies out of the nasty kind of swamp water, so you have enough to kind of make yourself a simple meal of kind of bread and fairly like fresh cheese and fruits, and you still have a flask that was given to you of that very nice cooling cucumber and mint cordial that the hedgehogs seem to specialize in brewing, which really helps kind of refresh you, because it's sticky, it's sweaty, it's very humid here in the swamp, even now as the evening draws in. But this very pleasant cordial helps kind of alleviate some of that and remind you of more comfortable places.
I mean, if any of the bread is getting stale, I think Holt will probably start dipping it into the cordial to start like softening it up.
Yeah, no, you can absolutely do that.
Like that.
But yes, you are all able to partake of a fairly decent fare of rations. Are you going to try and make somewhere comfortable to sleep, or are you just going to find like a knot of roots and curl up?
I think that's probably what Asher's going to do, is he's going to try to lean up maybe against a tree, try to sleep kind of sitting up.
Yes. I will find some softer ground and try to just curl up in a hedgehog ball.
Okay. Whilst the ground is not pleasant, it is soft, so as long as you can sacrifice, getting a bit of mud and algae on yourself, you can find somewhere comfortable. You just won't look very regal in the morning.
I've given up on that. I can find a bath. Yes, I will do that. I need some sleep.
Indeed. And so are you all going to go to sleep now?
Holt will watch.
Yeah, and I think before even Asher goes to sleep, just as it's kind of dark and it's getting quiet, he's going to kind of like, so it's been a day or two. Do any of you remember anything? I've been getting, I guess you could call them flashes of memories. They don't mean anything, not yet, but does any Wargbeer mean anything to you? Do you remember where we came from? Who you were?
Both of you, in fact, all three of you, the mention of this name please roll will tests for me. Oh, sorry, Asher's has come through. So that's a 10, 7, and a 10. Asher, maybe it's because you sprinted for nearly an hour to try and catch up to your friends being attacked. You are exhausted, and you mentally exhausted as well. The things you saw earlier, the big female badger in the resplendent armor and the encroaching army coming down the sand dunes, it's confusing and you're not sure what it means or how to put it together, and it's just making your brain fuzzy and makes you sleepier than ever. As for Anastasia and Holt, the name is familiar. You've heard it before, and whilst you can't quite place where, you do know that when you hear it, you feel a cold sense of dread wash over you.
Sort of shudders, like literally, like. I mean, it rings a bell, but I've got nothing. And he taps his head. Sorry.
Oh, it's all right. Don't worry about it. I'm sure things will come back to us.
I'm not too good up here. I can do all the lifting stuff, but I obviously don't have the memory for it.
All right. Let's get some rest. Hope you when you're feeling tired enough, you wake me up. All right.
Will do, mate.
And as you all settle down into your various little comfy, if a bit slimy cubby holes, you drift into your night's rest. Once again, I would like Anastasia. Please roll me another will test. Interesting. You fall into a deep slumber, and you see colors, flashes, voices passing through your mind. You hear low, rustic, but incredibly friendly voices that fill you with a sense of warmth and safety and security. And for the first time since you woke up on that beach, you start to feel a very small part of you relaxes, and the tension in your form relaxes. And Holt, you would notice that Anastasia kind of sighs in her sleep and looks a little bit more comfortable. And these voices, you can't really kind of, when dreams and you hear people speak to you, but you don't really register what they're saying. It's like that. You don't really know what they're saying to you, but all you know is that you like it, and you don't want them to stop talking to you. And all too soon, the voices fade away as if they are taken away from you. And the next thing you know, you are dashing through a forest. You look down, and in your left paw, you seem to be holding a sling, and it is loaded with a stone, and you are breathing heavily, and you are running. You are running for your life through these woods. Next to you, on your right, you see a larger form. There is an otter keeping pace with you, running as fast as you can. And it's Holt. It's definitely Holt. You recognize that face, those big friendly eyes, that tall, athletic form. And as you're running, you hear a voice somewhere else, out of sight. You hear, "Where's Asher? Where's the badger? We've lost the badger." And then you hear another voice call back, I don't know. They split us up. We can't find them. I can't even see them." And as you're running, you trip. And you realize you've tripped over some kind of line, some kind of something's been placed in the path in front of you. And before you know it, you have been hoisted up by your ankle, and you are dangling from a branch of a tree. And just as you're about to see what did this, something is chasing you, something was herding you through the forest, the dream slips away from you, and you are unable to remember anything else. Asha, if you could make an awareness check for me. Sorry, no, Holt, because you're on watch. Could you make an awareness check for me?
Yes, I can. Oh, wow.
6. Luckily for you, nothing seems to disturb your camp throughout the night. You think maybe because you didn't make a fire and you kept it as simple as possible, you haven't drawn too much attention to yourself. You hear some noises of creatures. You hear the sounds of insects, especially. No birds, but then birds aren't quite so prevalent in the evenings. As you're sitting there on watch, you see fireflies as they dance in the swamp around you, and there's something very beautiful about it. It worries you a little bit, perhaps, that the light that is cast might make you easier to notice, but nobody seems to interrupt your camp. However, as the night wears on and it gets later, and you assume there must be a moon because there is some bluish moonlight filtering through the trees, you can hear the drums again. Now you are closer to the camp. You hear them louder. You hear these great big war drums. You hear smaller drums built for more musical purposes and dancing, and you can hear sounds of merriment. You can hear beasts drinking and singing various rough melodies that you can't quite make out. But you can hear all the sounds of nighttime in a war horde camp.
After...
Potentially.
Sorry, go on.
Not to say, for the moment, nothing else seems to bother you.
Just because of the events of the day, he listens to this merriment and is so tempted to wake the others, or at least go towards it. But he's not trusting a lot because it's an army in his head. They've just come across an army, and that means there's going to be another one. So he sort of adjusts his grip on his staff, sort of props himself up against one of the trees to make his shoulder a bit more comfortable, almost like one of the branches is actually supporting it whilst he leans on it, and just watches the fireflies until it's time to wake Asher.
Okay. Nothing disturbs you until the time comes. And again, you do swap over, and Asha, you take your place sitting up to keep watch. Holt, do you just try and bed down and get some rest?
Yep, I boop Asher on the nose, as I did very much with Lady Anastasia, and genuinely thinks that's how you do it now. So after that, he sort of props himself up against the tree. He folds up one of his cloaks to put it behind his arm, so it sort of keeps it in a comfortable position.
Okay, as you descend into slumber, I would like you to also make a will check for me.
Will check, okay.
Good rolls when you need them, huh?
Yep, apparently so.
Holt. As you dream, you also hear voices that elicit a distinct peace and happiness from you, a sense of pure joy and excitement as you see in front of you a brawny adult otter who reaches forwards and kind of tousles the very soft fur between your ears, and you realize you're very small. You are only kind of halfway up this larger otter's chest in terms of height, and you see this big burly otter. He kind of grins at you, and you realize where you're standing. You're in a beautiful garden. You see hydrangeas and azaleas and all manners of flowers and shrubs in bloom as they ring this incredibly tall and thick looking red stone wall in front of you. These huge slabs of red sandstone that go to build this incredibly defensive barrier. And the pair of you are standing in front of a gate. A tall, thick wooden gate set into the side of this wall. And the otter, as he tousles your head, he just smiles. And you notice there are other otters. He's not the only one. Well, both of you aren't the only ones. There are 4 others kind of flanking him. They're not quite so as big and strong as this otter looks. And they look a mix of male and female. But they're also kind of smiling. They look very good-natured, but they also all look very tough. Most of them have short bows or long bows. Most of them also carry javelins and slings. The big otter in front of you is carrying a big spear on his back. And as he smiles, you have this intense, almost painful sense of recognition and longing, and like a deep sadness as you see this otter turn and walks through these gates flanked by these 4 other very strong, tough-looking otters, and the gate closes in front of you. And the dream slowly dissolves back into dreamless, deep sleep. Asher, could you please roll an awareness check for me? Okay, 16. Straight away you clock the drums. The drums are there as ever present as they were the night before, only louder. And similarly to Holt, you hear the sounds of revelry, you hear fighting, you hear laughing, you hear dancing, and various rough-sounding instruments being played. It's in some ways it's off-putting, the joy and merriment that you can hear, because you know what it belongs to. And if your vision earlier is anything to go by, it's very bad. Clearly, these beasts are your enemies. I mean, you can't know from a glance if an army is good or bad. I mean, most of the time, it depends how pacifistic a creature you are. You could assume it's always bad, but this is not an army defending their home. This is an invading force. You can clearly tell that by the way these temporary tents have been erected and the fact that they wouldn't be defending a stretch of beach like this. This is an army on the move. And you feel that unease kind of crawl up your back as you sit and you watch and you listen. And the fireflies dance steadily around you as you peel your eyes into the night, but nothing interrupts your camp. Nothing seems to try and ambush you or sneak up on you. Either they haven't found the defeated tracking party from earlier yet, or maybe they don't care, or maybe they've sent out more trackers who just haven't managed to find you yet. You're not sure, but as far as you are aware, nothing either finds your presence or disturbs you for the duration of your watch.
Okay.
And it's up to you. You can wake up Lady Anastasia for the final watch if you wish.
No, I think Asher still feels a decent amount of guilt about not being there when his friends were first attacked. So yeah, he let Holt, just for pride alone to take the first watch, but I think he probably would have done the whole night if it was up to him. So yeah, I think he'll finish out the night till morning.
Okay. In that case, I would like you to please roll an endurance check for me.
My.
9. As dawn approaches, you feel your eyelids drooping. It has been a long night. It was a busy day filled with stress and constant vigilance. And the effects of that long day are starting to take effect on you. You can feel yourself getting drowsy, your head is nodding, but no, you only have to stay awake for another hour or so, and then it'll be dawn and you can keep moving and the army will move. But try as you might, you feel yourself dipping, your eyes closing slowly. You feel the stifling warmth and humidity of the swamp just pressing in on you from all sides like a blanket, just smothering you. And before you know it, you've just nodded off. And then you are awakened. The light has changed. The fireflies have gone. You see sunlight streaming down through the trees all around you. You're not sure how long has passed. It can't be that long after dawn because the light still has that almost ethereal quality to it. The drums have stopped. However, you can still hear distantly sounds of camp. However, the thing that grabs your attention, indeed grabs all of your attention as you are all shaken awake, is the feeling of cold steel tickling the end of your nose. Holt, you look up. All of you look up. You are surrounded by about 20 tall, athletic, lean-looking hares. Their long ears pointing straight up as they take in the sounds of the swamp around them. Each of them is pointing a rapier-style sword, which is tickling the point of your nose. And the largest of these hares is looking down at you, Asher. She is dressed superbly. She wears this blue double-breasted doublet with gold and silver trim, and you see various marks of office on the breast of this coat as she looks down at you and smirks. Good morning. My name is Fertillery Fabia Fripswallop. Who the bally swamp are you? And that is where we are going to end today's session.
I love it. I love hares, though. Hares are like, yes. They all sound like my great uncle. So, well, thank you. This was so amazing. We do have credits today.
Yes.
So we can do that now. But otherwise, please check out the links that are going into chat right now. There's also a link to the Discord. Please head over to the Discord and tell us what you think of this game, and like, do you have a favorite bit? I know I'm going to head over there now and put my favorite bit into the chat, so please go ahead and do that too. Otherwise, a huge thank you to our wonderful sponsors in the form of Bird and Storm and also Mage Empress, who we could definitely not do this without. So thank you so much. I'm already so excited for next week and the hares. So everyone keep evoking emotions, and we'll see you then. Bye.
Bye.